Let's talk about something so many of us think is a good thing: perfectionism. We wear it like a badge of honor, right? But what if I told you that your constant drive to be perfect isn't actually helping you do better work? What if it's the one thing that's stopping you from doing, well, anything at all? You know that feeling, don't you? You've got this great idea, maybe for a painting, a story, or hey, even just an important email. But the second you face that blank canvas or that blinking cursor, bam! This wave of fear just washes over you. The fear that whatever you make just won't be good enough. This isn't about a lack of talent. Oh no. This is perfectionism doing its thing. Okay, so if we're going to beat this thing, we've got to understand why our brains even fall into this trap in the first place. And here's a spoiler. It has less to do with high standards and a whole lot more to do with plain old survival. And this is where it gets really interesting. We tend to think of perfectionism as, a quest for excellence. But from a psychological standpoint, it's actually a defense strategy. It's your brain's way of trying to keep you safe from the sting of criticism or the embarrassment of making a mistake. This right here is the heart of the problem. Your brain, especially the older parts of it, can't really tell the difference between a major social threat, like, say, getting kicked out of the tribe, and a minor one, like someone not liking your latest sketch. So that nagging inner critic voice you hear, that's your brain's alarm system, just screaming at you to stop before you can get hurt. And this kicks off a really nasty cycle. First, you feel inadequate, because that gap between your amazing vision and the blank page feels like a canyon. Then, that feeling sparks anxiety. And what's the easiest way to get rid of anxiety? Well, your brain tells you to just avoid the thing causing it, so you don't create. No creation, no criticism, no problem, or so your brain thinks. So right about now, you're probably thinking, okay, but don't I need high standards to do good work? And that is a fantastic question. Turns out, some researchers were curious about that too. So let's look at this incredible study that really shines a light on the huge difference between two mindsets. So on one side, you have perfectionism. This is an errorless standard. Any tiny mistake, any little flaw, and the whole thing feels like a total failure. But then, on the other side, you have something called Excellencism. This is all about doing great, productive work, but it also accepts that, hey, mistakes are just part of the process. It's about striving for something great, not paralyzing yourself with fear. And here is where it gets absolutely wild. In a study, students were asked to brainstorm creative uses for everyday objects. The results were just stunning. The excellent strivers, the ones aiming for great but not perfect, were by a long shot the most creative. But look at the perfection strivers. Their creativity scores were just as low as the non-strivers, the people who weren't even really trying. How crazy is that? So what does this all mean? Well, it boils down to this. That obsession with being perfect makes you absolutely terrified to fail. And if you're afraid to fail, you're never going to experiment. You're just going to stick to the safe, predictable ideas. And creativity? Well, creativity is the exact opposite of safe and predictable. It needs experimentation to survive. All right, let's break down exactly how this survival instinct puts a total chokehold on your creative spark. There are basically two main ways it wages war on your best ideas. First up, it makes you judge your ideas while they're still being born. I mean, how are you supposed to brainstorm when there's a voice in your head shouting, "That's dumb," at every single thought? And second, it creates what we all know as blank page syndrome. The sheer thought of creating a perfect thing from scratch is so enormous, so overwhelming, that you're paralyzed before you even take the first tiny step. This quote just nails it. Instead of actually focusing on your art or your work, your whole creative process becomes this high-stakes battle against your own anxiety. It turns your creative playground into a battleground. Okay, that was a little heavy. But we've diagnosed the problem. Now for the good part, the solution. And the good news is you can absolutely fight back against this inner critic. Let's get into some simple but really powerful tools you can use to get your creative flow back. We're going to focus on 3 super practical things you can start doing, like today. First, embracing tiny little steps called micro movements. Second, and this one's fun, deliberately giving yourself permission to make ugly art. And third, learning to actually, talk back to that critical voice in your head. So the idea of writing a whole book is terrifying, right? But what about just writing one sentence? Or even just opening the document? Micro movements are actions that are so small, so non-threatening, that they sneak right past your brain's fear alarm. So don't try to write a masterpiece today. Just clear your desk. That simple act is a win. This strategy is so powerful because it just yanks all the pressure right off. What if your goal wasn't to create something good, but to create something messy on purpose?
The moment you aim for ugly or wonky, that inner critic has nothing to say. It loses all its power because you're not even trying to impress it anymore. You're just playing.
And finally, you gotta be direct. When that voice pipes up and says, this isn't good enough, give it a name. Picture it as some annoying little gremlin. And then tell it to get lost. Seriously, say it out loud if you need to. Hey, thanks for your input, but I'm a little busy right now. Go take a hike. It feels silly at first, but trust me, it works. So, we've seen how perfectionism is just a trap, and we've got a few solid ways to escape it. Now it's time for you to actually put this stuff into practice.
Just remember, creating something isn't always about the final product. The process itself is the reward. It's that magical state of flow where you completely lose track of time. And that feeling, that is something everyone deserves to experience, without the heavy weight of judgment on their shoulders.
So here's my challenge for you. Don't you dare try to make a masterpiece today. Instead, I want you to go make something intentionally imperfect. Write a silly poem, draw a cartoon with stick figures, try a new recipe, and give yourself total permission for it to be a complete mess. So what's one beautifully wonky thing you are going to create? Go on, go get started.